in a lot of situations, it's really easy to bury your head in the sand and ignore that there's a problem. And I feel like this is what's happening at the moment, where a lot of companies are going through the motions of saying, hey, we have a great culture, but the evidence is to the contrary. And when I say the evidence, I mean, I posted recently, I think it was last week or the week before, that Bloomberg reported that women, and particularly minoritized groups in general, then on top of that, particularly Black women, are leaving the world of private equity and venture capital at a rate of knots. Then you have, on top of that, the fact that since the pandemic, that there has been like a proliferation of new startups just springing up everywhere, because people are moving towards working in a values-based, values-aligned manner, meaning that they're no longer wanting to work at loads of companies. And I'm going to say the word corporate in general, I'm going to throw that out there because that seems to be the source of the issue. Now, there are two options, I would say, for corporates. Continue to bury your head in the sand, or acknowledge to a certain extent that maybe, once upon a time, Lehman Brothers was too big to fail. There's no such thing. We've seen it. There's no such thing as being too big to fail. There's no such thing as having a reputation that's too large. And I think this is the point. If people are leaving your company in the bucket load, it's telling you something. And what it's telling you is manifold. One, that the values that they have are not aligned to yours. Two, potentially you don't have any values that anybody knows about. And three, that there's something fundamentally wrong with your culture. And you can only ignore it for so long. Because whilst at the very top of the tree, a lot of senior people within the corporate world are in what I call, they may not realize it's a cage, but it's a cage nevertheless. They're in a golden cage. So they earn so much money, there's no way that their loyalty has been inbuilt through the fact that they get paid so much. So they're not looking really to go anywhere else unless the money is going to be exactly as astronomical, which also means that the process of finding another job, and on and on and on. We're not talking about those people. We're talking about like the 99% of the rest of the company who aren't motivated purely by money because A, they're not being paid enough to be loyal to the company, but B, they haven't been valued up until this point. It's not a surprise that when you're looking at asset managers, if you're looking, that it's not portfolio management and client relationship management that are leaving, but operations. It's not surprising that when you look at management consultancy, it's not the partners or the managing directors, depending on how the hierarchy structure goes, that are leaving. In a lot of cases, it is the less junior where there are more bodies, but people whose talents have been overlooked. And this is the part. People leaving your company is a sign that your culture is not healthy, it's not robust, and it no longer makes sense to ask, especially if you're sitting at the top of the tree. It makes no sense to ask people on the left and right of you because they are also in a similar bubble to yourself. It's about asking the people who are potentially 5, 10, 15 degrees away from you and asking them what their reality looks like. Asking them, does the culture really, is it somewhere that you want to stay? Because if there's a mass exodus, it's telling you something, but it doesn't mean it's over. And let's also remember, and I think this is what has been lost in terms of understanding in the course of the years, although we apply a financial value to the output of each person, we apply a financial value. But the point is, each person's role has truthfully, the same value, because those at the top still couldn't do what those at the bottom do. And I think this is what's forgotten. You're right, nobody is indispensable. But when your long-term foregoing experience, when you're not changing your culture, that creates a level of loyalty, then all is lost. Because you won't then be able to attract Gen Z. You won't be able to retain the millennials who are there, who think, well, you know something, I've done this for X amount of years. What's the upside for me? Why should I stay? So then you have a skewed workforce. But you have a problem because a business can't just work from the top end. What I think, what's the phrase? It's like no matter how tall and strong a tree is, if its roots are dead, the tree doesn't live, it doesn't survive. It's only a matter of time. And this is the critical part of doing a self-analysis. This is the critical part in taking the next step, in doing a real drill down audit, in understanding what is the problem and not ignoring it. Because you don't need to ask if there is a problem as people are leaving. The question is, what is the problem? Not if, what? What is the problem and how can we rectify it? And what would be our most impactful solution? I want to say solution, it's the wrong word actually. What would be our most impactful first step to show that we're serious, to show that we're committed, but we're also pushing along the change? Because it can't be, as I've said before, it can't be our first step is that we're going to have another board meeting to figure out what if there's a problem. There's a problem. The question is, what is it? Now, this might also mean pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and reaching out to those people that have left. Did you do an exit interview? If not, why not? Did they say to you at the time they didn't want to talk to you? All of these clues, it's almost in many cases like being a detective. All the clues are there. All the pieces of the puzzle are there. It's just for them to be put together. That's it. Put the pieces of the puzzle together. If somebody said to you they don't want to talk and give feedback, it says maybe they don't think they're going to be heard. Maybe what they're going to say is going to be poo-pooed. No, this isn't the case. No, that isn't the case. Come prepared to learn. Come prepared to understand. Once again, going back to the analogy of the tree, doesn't matter how big and strong you are. If your roots are dead, it's only a matter of time. Only a matter of time. And this is the part that we need to address. Because Generation Z, I think I said Z? Anyway, Generation Z, they're not like any others that we've seen before, but there's a really important bridge to gap. Yeah, that's right. No, gap to bridge. In order to make sure that companies of the future, and I hasten to add of the future, because you're only contemporary right now, but you might not have a future if you don't change. And that has to mean having your values up front and center, not as something that you do, but as part of who you are, as part of how you run your business, because that will make the critical difference. Will you be here next year? Probably. Will you be here the year after? Probably. But will you be best in class? Almost definitely not. Because there's so many other companies who are understanding the need to lead with values first, and not to make it something that's just a nice sentence or a nice page on their website, but actually how they approach everything. And that goes this, and this is the same for any new businesses too. It's thinking about putting values first and making sure that touches everything you do. It's a part of who you are and how you operate, because that will also be the defining characteristic for businesses going forward. Those who survive barely, and those who thrive and make a change, a positive change, to the landscape, to the corporate landscape, the business landscape, the social landscape that we have right now. So those are my thoughts for today. Have a great day. Bye-bye.